Hi, and welcome to another health talk from Marz. It's out of this world. In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about tocotrienols, a special form of vitamin E that can help you live longer and healthier. So stay tuned. So I had heard about tocotrienols a number of years ago, but it wasn't until about 6 years ago that I really learned about tocotrienols. So I actually had gone down to the Amazon with a good colleague and friend of mine to study the plants of the Brazilian Amazon. And while we were down there at the biological station, basically we found this series of trees, annatto trees. And these annatto trees had these little pods, and in the pods were these red seeds. And so our instructor basically had us take these pods apart and take these seeds and crush them up and spread them onto our faces and bodies. So we were all kind of painted with this annatto face paint. And I just thought to myself, this deep red orange pigment has to have some health benefits. The instructor at this retreat didn't really know of anything in particular, but set the groundwork up for about a year later. I was at a conference. I had a booth of my own company, and across from me was a gentleman who no one was really paying much attention to, but he had a big banner and he had a picture of annatto and annatto seeds. So I went over at one of the breaks and saw him and started talking to him, and I told him about having painted our faces with this annatto seeds, these annatto seeds. And he started telling me all about annatto. And inside annatto was tocotrienol, which is a very special form of vitamin E that has some really critical importance with a number of different tissues. And so he explained to me its benefits on various diseases, cancer and diabetes, heart disease, and amongst other autoimmune diseases. And got really interested. So about within the next year, I basically decided that I needed to have this tocotrienol in a supplement form. And there I created my first supplement with Tocotrienols, OxyQuench Ultra. So what are tocotrienols? Tocotrienols are a special form of vitamin E. So how are they different than regular tocopherol or vitamin E? Well, vitamin E or tocopherol embeds itself deeply into cell membranes, and it usually is fixed there. And it does its antioxidant activity to protect those cell membranes by staying right where it's at. Whereas tocotrienols actually embed themselves much more superficially on the cell membrane. So they actually travel along the cell membrane. And it's been found that tocotrienols are about 50 times more potent than tocopherols at antioxidant activity. So why is this important? Well, antioxidant activity protects cell membranes against oxidative damage, and insulin receptors, for example, are receptors that embed themselves in cell membranes. And if the cell membranes become damaged, what happens is those insulin receptors don't work so well, and that can be the beginning of diabetes. In cardiovascular disease, damage to the cell membrane causes inflammation. Inflammation causes the body to start to deposit cholesterol and fats into the vessel wall, creating atheromas. Those are plaques that over a long period of time can completely close down an artery, causing heart attacks or strokes. So this is an extremely important characteristic of tocotrienols that is not really well appreciated by the average person. So where do tocotrienols come from? Well, tocotrienols are not found readily in foods. There's three main food sources that they can be found. Rice bran oil is one. Another one is palm oil. And the third one comes from annatto, which is a plant that grows freely down in the Brazilian rainforest and also in Costa Rica. So what we have found is that palm oil, as you might know, is not a sustainable plant and is oftentimes used in places where they're cutting down trees and losing habitat for various types of animal species, especially orangutans. So, and rice bran is not so readily available. There's a significantly higher concentration of tocotrienols in annatto. So, one of the things that we know is that the average person in the world gets about 1 to 2 milligrams of tocotrienols, and we should be consuming much more than that just because of our exposure to environmental toxicants. So we would do much better getting between 100 and 200 milligrams a day of tocotrienols. So what kind of conditions do we use tocotrienols for? Well, we know that tocotrienols are very good at protecting oxidation of cell membranes. We mentioned cardiovascular disease. If you have any history of cardiovascular disease, and especially if you are taking a statin drug, tocotrienols are essential. Statin drugs can oftentimes cause side effects in people, unwanted side effects that can make taking the drug intolerable. Tocotrienols can actually protect you from developing those symptoms. Other conditions that tocotrienols can be used for are the treatments of diabetes and Alzheimer's disease. Diabetes is a condition in which insulin does not bind properly to receptors in most cases of diabetes. So one of the things that tocotrienols does basically is protect the cell membranes, as mentioned before, and protect those delicate receptors that insulin binds onto. So that's a very useful tool. So it's estimated that 54% of the adult population now has either prediabetes or diabetes. Alzheimer's, which is becoming an unbelievable epidemic, is also a condition that results from oxidation of various brain proteins. So this oxidation is something that can be prevented by the use of tocotrienols. So if you have elevated levels of something called homocysteine, which is a toxin that can affect the brain, taking extra tocotrienols can be really quite effective. Another condition that has been found to be treated with tocotrienols is osteoporosis. A number of studies indicates that tocotrienols stimulate the activity of osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are specific cells in the bone that stimulate further bone growth. So if you have or know someone that has osteoporosis, taking tocotrienols would definitely be a valuable thing. Lastly, cancer. Cancer, number 2 cause of death by disease, is something that results from oxidation and damage to DNA. So this DNA damage is something that can be protected with the use of tocotrienols. So taking an adequate level of tocotrienols, anywhere from 100 to 200 milligrams a day, would be very protective against numerous different types of cancers. Lastly, I wanted to talk about something called leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome is a condition whereby cells in the intestinal tract get separated apart by their tight junctions, and as a result, causes certain proteins to get across the mucosal membrane that can cause an immunological response in the body. This is something that may trigger autoimmune disease and other pathologies. So what we have found is that tocotrienols are really effective at actually binding on to those cell membranes and tightening up those tight junctions. So this would have an effect on allergies and other conditions that might be related to autoimmunity. So how much should a person take in of tocotrienols on a daily basis? It's believed that between 100 and 200 milligrams a day would be a great dose. And what we know is that the average person gets about 1 to 2 milligrams a day. So not very much. So I created an antioxidant formula called OxyQuench Ultra a number of years ago and have made various changes over the years, improving the formula by adding certain additional substances. About 5 or 6 years ago, I added tocotrienols to my formula because I felt they were so important as an antioxidant to be added to my formulation. So OxyQuench Ultra has about 30 milligrams of tocotrienol per capsule. So just 3 of them a day will get you the 90 milligrams that you need on a daily basis. So how much should a healthy person take in of tocotrienols? It's believed that anywhere from 100 to 200 milligrams a day would be a really good dosage. The average American gets about 2 milligrams of tocotrienols per day, which is not very much. So when you take tocotrienols, it's important to take them with some food because they are fat soluble. And if you take in food that has a little bit of fat in it, that will stimulate the production of bile salts, and that in turn will enhance the absorption of the tocotrienols. A number of years ago, I came out with a multi-antioxidant formula to protect cells from damage, and I've made several changes over the years to improve the formulation. About 6 or 7 years ago, I added tocotrienols to my formula because I felt this was an extremely important compound as an antioxidant to have in my antioxidant formulation. So 1 capsule has 30 milligrams of tocotrienols. So if you take 2 capsules twice a day, you're getting 120 milligrams of tocotrienols, which is a really nice dosage to protect you from Alzheimer's disease, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disease, and allergies. Thanks for watching this video on tocotrienols. If you like what you heard and thought it was valuable, click like and subscribe or share this with a friend. If you want to purchase OxyQuench Ultra, you can go to marznutrition.net to the website. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.